Why don't Arsenal go in for him?
Yeah, I think they should. Personally, I think, you know, we talked about him last week, didn't we, about what he could bring to a team. He could play through the middle, he could play wide, so he could play on that right-hand side in place of Saka. And I'm really surprised that Arsenal haven't even explored it, or at least we don't know that at this stage.
Might done. Is that the question you were going to ask?
I was just going to ask, in terms of Kylian Mbappe, we've heard a lot about him being multifaceted, he can play in multiple positions. For Arsenal, I think what they're crying out for is a definitive striker and a defensive player who can play on the left-hand side in terms of their strongest lineup. What is Kylian Mbappé's best position? Because we've seen him play in multiple positions, not just for France, but also for PSG.
I think if you look at the way that he plays, there's a lot of movement across the line anyway. And I think even when he's played up front for Eintracht Frankfurt, for example, a lot of that was moving into wide areas as well. So he's not a focal point per se. You wouldn't just shove him up there and, you know, expect him to just kind of lead that line in that way. But I just think he's a top player. And I think at Paris it hasn't worked out. Luis Enrique doesn't fancy him. And so he needs a move. But I still believe the talent is absolutely there.
What about Dani Olmo? Because it's kind of player, if he's available, you would think almost every big club in the world is going to try and get him. Is he definitely staying at Barcelona now? Is that all sorted out, or is there a glimmer of hope? Is the door slightly open?
The door isn't open because, but it's one to keep an eye on. The reason it's one to keep an eye on. So, as we spoke last week, Barcelona was still trying to get his registration sorted. What has happened is they went to the courts and the courts said no. They went to the Spanish Federation and they went to La Liga. They said no. So they think, who else can we go to? So they went to the Spanish government. They went to the top sports court in the Spanish government and they said, we want to take it to you. It's like CAS, for example, but in Spain. They went to them and said, we don't think this is fair. We think we should have been allowed to register him. They have given Barcelona temporary dispensation to play both him and Pau Victor, who always gets forgotten. But he's in the same situation. So that meant that he could play in the Spanish Super Cup final, beat Real Madrid. But what it's done is kick the can down the road, because all it is it's a temporary dispensation until the case can be heard in full. Now, that could mean in a couple of months' time, say the start of April, when things really start moving with big competitions, the court could rule that he can't play anymore, that his registration is null and void. So I think he still feels a debt to Barcelona. He wants to be a Barcelona player, but I think clubs will be keeping an eye on this, because I think this is a row that will run and run and run.
Barcelona, I mean, some of the things that they managed to get away with off the field is incredible, isn't it? So, Dani Olmo at the moment, that could be going their way.